Hello. Oh, that's a bit green, isn't it? I've got some light effects going on here, and I may need to change that. Then that looks worse than it actually is in real life. Maybe go for the blue. Bit of red and blue. Well, here we are.
Ooh,
Purples. I'll just put it normal. Let's get them on the white. There we go. I'll wear the white one. They're nice little lights. These look. You just give them a little on, off, remote control. Your red, your green, your blue. A bit of a weird orange to white. That's a pink, believe it or not, but the camera doesn't pick that up. Yeah. Right then. It is Saturday, the 27th of June. Just checking in case it had changed halfway through. We are here for our weekly update, and it is 9:37. We've done well there, Kev. Hello, everyone.
amazing. How have we done that?
Just by accident, we got Steve mashing the brew, and he's back. Here he is. He's in.
Yeah, we expect him, and he's like the sofa in your living room. You know, he's always there.
Malibu.
Steve, how are you?
He's the Malibu of SPLs, part of the furniture.
The Malibu. Tia Maria.
Oh, no tears here, mate. No. So, I'd like to begin with talking about the question then. He's asked, can you explain the Mauve M story and the Peter of England, as he doesn't understand? Please Kingstand and explain. I do like that, my brother. What I'd like to say is, I had an addition to a group by a brother called Dave, John, of the Clapham estate. And he put me into somewhere where I went in and said hello, and I commented on something. And as soon as I did that, I met Gary, who was it now? What was his Law? Gary Davis. Yeah, Gary Law. And he started going on about stuff and attacking and being just evil, to be fair. And I didn't shed a tear, but I wasn't expecting to see Gary. What else is he called? What did you just say, Kev?
Gary Law, Gary Davis.
That's it, Davis. Yeah, that's who I knew him as. And
Lucy Longshaw.
Lucy D.
Yeah.
When he started to critique and get vexatious and angry straight away, for no reason, and I just played it down and I tried to diffuse it, and then I went into the group admin and who it was to tag them and say what go on, and I found that Elizabeth Nelson was the admin. So I tagged Liz and said blah blah blah, and once you know of something and you allow it, then you are a contributor to it, aren't you? Those aren't the correct words, but you are passively allowing it, so you are guilty by association, if you like, because you're knowledgeable of harm, injury, loss and vexation, etc. And then I had some commentary from Liz, and she blocked me straight away on Facebook. She gave it a load of big uns, and she blocked me. So I posted everything and let you all know, and said if you like in this group or you're associated with these on your friends list, then you may need to be aware. And I left the group, and Liz blocked me, Elizabeth Nelson, on Facebook, and then I decided to tell everybody what had gone on Facebook. And then we had some postings from a man called Tony of the Perry clan on Facebook that I and Kev were aware of, and so I put that up, the screenshot about can you remember what it said, Kev, because I'm a bit scatty about court and prison.
Well, basically,
his
the long
claim.
and short of it was that she done time in prison for fraud.
That's what Tony alleged. Yeah,
yes.
That's it.
As far as I'm aware, that's a fact.
Yeah, I don't, you say that's a fact. I'm not putting you on the line here, but I just know it was from Tony, and I would like to research this and find out a bit more of this, and that's why I'm publicly asking. I put that screenshot from Tony onto YouTube, onto the Indiglo posting page, onto Facebook, and maybe into SPLs. And it turns out through discovery and asking and saying what go on about the kindness credits, John Smith, registration of birth certificates, common law court, John Smith, registration of birth certificates, kindness credits, Elizabeth Nelson, We Buy Any Debt, and I wanted to know what others thought, their interaction. I have a lot of emails, and I have a lot of previous interaction with Facebook realm, and I've had commentary and messages about this, which I'll keep private because I haven't got permission to share. I only share what's put in the public or what I'm given permission to share. And the feedback is as I thought and is as I've experienced it. So I expressed my concerns. I was honourable. I was giving full disclosure. I was concerned, and we've had a lot of negative, what would you say, commentary about the interaction, the service, and all of that with We Buy Any Debt and Kindness Credits. And it was just today when I posted on Facebook. I posted on Facebook about Em Moven come on, and she blocks me on Facebook after attacking me, but yet views the videos on YouTube and puts comments on about bullshit selling and whatever. But Em Moven is not very specific. There's no disclosure behind that name. There's no videos on the channel, and there was no picture, so you can't see who it is. Unlike Indiglo, it's not my calling, but I'm on the video, so anybody knows the man who's behind the account. But with Em Moven, I was a bit sceptical, and I was polite and courteous. It's on the video that's got the tax icon. I can't remember the title on that one. And I was quite graceful, and I realised it may be Liz. So then I realised on Facebook and talking to Kev, there's a Dave Moven, and it was when I was chatting with Kev, we realised that Moven is attached to the alleged trust and transfer kindness credits and everything. So then I realised I got a Dave John Moven on the account of Facebook that had added me, which may not be Dave John. And bearing in mind, when I got attacked by Gary Law in that group, it was Dave John that added me. So I was like, it's all getting messy and sticky here. I see, but I don't see, because I don't know who's behind these accounts. And I've removed them, and I've let you all know, as is my obligation, because I believe there is harm, injury, and loss that may occur to anybody that hasn't got the eyes and ears to see and know, as they're hiding behind multiple names, working together. Gary's got multiple accounts. Dave John Clapham's got at least 2 or 3, I believe, and I believe Elizabeth M. Moven has got more than one. So no disclosure, not so much honour, attacking, vexatious, malicious, and then coming onto YouTube after blocking me on Facebook. Why bother with me? I'm just a little idiot, that's got his own works here. So that's in a nutshell what that is. And then as I've gone on Facebook today and put a post in Splspro on Facebook, somebody, which I'm not going to reveal the name, but at Facebook Splspro is public and it's open. So any admissions in there are not really private, but I thought the user I didn't say to the user on Facebook, I'm going to copy that. I'm just going to take it, remove the ID of the Facebook realm, and then post it out to say, here's an admission. I've got quite a few. And then in that post, he's put about, now here's where it gets interesting. She's doing the same as Peter of England did a few years ago. And now Peter of England, I don't know much of. I've not watched many of his videos. I know he's a 50-year-old, roughly middle-aged man with white hair, and I've had a quick skim of his videos. So then that was brought to me by a Facebook user whilst I was talking about Em Moven and the transfer, discharge, kindness credits, registration of birth certificates kerfuffle. And then to my surprise, that was, we'll see how we go. So I'm not making claims of Peter of England, others are. I'm going fishing, and I'd like to know what comes back, and then we can articulately, concisely, lovingly, honourably talk about this deception, possible deception, confusion. And I don't mean any malice. I didn't put Peter of England, another user has. All I can talk about is Liz, kindness credits, birth certificates, the equitable instrument there, what we view that as, and then the danger of handing that over when it's crown copyright in trust language, in trust principle, in the maxims of the equity governance there. You have the trustee has legal possessory title. So if you are in that way, you would need to correct the relationships before you are officially legally allowed to move and manage as the grantor settlor. You'd need to correct with the government. So it looks a bit dangerous to try and employ a third party to do all this for you when we're here to give you that power and to bestow upon you your grantor settlor going to the top of the pyramid rather than being at the trustee position. We want to switcheroo you and put it back to the state and the fiduciaries there in their capacity, and others that don't want to give you this information or teach you, educate you, should I say, the principality of the principal and and the principal. The pull and the pal is very key. So over to you, Kev.
Sounds a bit like PayPal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I sort of came across her and her kindness credit thing, I don't know, quite a while ago. But I never really saw, I didn't see what the point, I didn't see what it was all about, really. It didn't make any sense to me. I've seen her making a few comments, but to be honest with you, my personal, I can honestly say, until probably a couple of 2 or 3 days ago, I've never seen anything positive said, ever. And then for the first time the other day, somebody made a comment going on about the community, the kindness credits. Turns out it was Dave Imoven, who I just realised was somebody else, and he's clearly changed his name. So I went into my profile, yeah, there he is, sort of thing. To be pushing that, but that's the only positive thing I've ever seen about her. And as I say, obviously now he's changed the name to Imoven. It makes sense why he's being positive about it. But either he's another fool that doesn't see the error, or it's a con, scam. Don't know, but I'm not interested. It doesn't make sense. And why are these people that have these things set up and telling us all here in England what a wonderful system they've got, that live in Greece?
Yeah.
I fucking do. I'm sorry, excuse my French. Divine, Mr. Divine, in Greece. Nelson, Greece. Sometimes Greek prison, but still Greece.
We got the Greece.
I mean, I say, and to me, if you've got something that works, right, and you know it does, and it's good, and you stand by it, why are you off making shitty little comments where nobody can see them? Surely you come forward and go, well, look, hang on a minute, let me show you, here, this person says this and that, why didn't you speak to them? To me, it just speaks volumes of the person. If all they can do is basically call people stupid names on other channels, and he stole X, Y, Z off me, I assure you nothing's been stolen off of Liz Nelson. Nothing worth having anyway, Jesus Christ. But none of it adds up to me. None of it adds up to me. Doesn't make any sense. As I say, all I've seen, especially recently, I think the last month, I've seen it's come up twice, and twice people have come forward and said, I did X, Y, Z, never ever got anything. 3 times actually. Another person said, I was speaking to her, I started asking some questions, basically put the phone down. That's what you're dealing with. As soon as you start questioning their system, right, you're obviously too clever. Let's put the phone down on you. We need idiots. That tells you everything. If somebody won't explain it and they get upset you're asking questions, come on, the alarm bell should be breaking your door down by now.
Yeah, if we carried on like this and was asking for registration of certificates and all these pennies and monies, people would be sceptical. So we have quite a few members, supporters, equivalent members on here and via Facebook that have given us, and on the telephone and via email, but Kevin and I both know the similar or the same, some of the same ones that have talked to us in confidence that have said, actually, we was going to do that. We know quite a few, don't we, Kevin? And we're not being vexatious or malicious. We have the evidence, and they will, they have given to us their feelings. So again, they will come forward and speak up as and when via Facebook posts or YouTube or in here. So I see danger, and we are, we're going to stand up and say we smell something fishy, like with the Dagons and the Jesus the fish, the dog star, the Dogons and everything. We connect dots very quickly, don't we? So I don't think they like us for that. We're not so closed, blinkered off with like the horse, straightforward vision. We kind of have our eyes on the side, if you like, and we can see quite a lot of the peripheral vision. The vision is 360 almost. So we stand back to back, we've got it covered. If we get four of us, north, south, east, west, there's nobody coming in. So that's what we're looking to do. Back each other up, get back to back, and let's survey and king stand these claims that are being made. So if you was, that established and honourable, surely Liz Nolson would make an appearance herself, or a video or a proclamation, a declaration, or come onto the YouTube channel as Liz Nolson, not Husky, not M. Moven, not a mysterious, non-disclosed entity, name, account, and then start chirping on. It's not good enough. It doesn't wash, and we have a lot of good options before us to go to the promised land. And I think they're trying to keep us from this promised land by any which means necessary. And desperate, scared, depressed, vulnerables, man will easily take something and then hope for the best without knowing, without the full disclosure, without any contract. It's all digital media. Facebook is free, so it's like, oh wow, it's not even endorsed, or we're not registered. But that's because I can't register this.com and preach to you about not registering, can I? So I've got to put my balls where my mouth is. We're going into the 4th year, and I can't believe we're still here.
Funny enough, so another thing I wanted to mention to you about, talking of platforms, Parler.
Hey?
Parler.
What's that?
It's a freedom of speech platform. 3 million people have gone over there in the last few days.
Oh wow.
All to do with Facebook. I see a load of advertising has been pulled from Facebook. Facebook's had 56 billion wiped from its value. Zuckerberg personally has lost 7.2 billion off his wealth.
Yes.
Just on advertising. That's in the last couple of days. Some major people have pulled out, said no, and it could be till the end of the year. That was just for July, but they're talking about now not running any more adverts via Facebook till the end of the year. It's like Unilever and it's big names. But I actually joined Parler today just because I've watched a lot of people in the last few days pushing it, and I read the things that apparently they've had, like, in the last week or 2 weeks or something, 3 million people. I don't know what the rules and that are like, but I say they're all sort of saying it's pretty much do what you want. There's bound to be some community guidelines, obviously. I didn't really have a look. I just thought I'd go and see how easy it is to set it up. Piece of piss. So just another one to look at, people. I don't know. I'm watching, and I'm in a group called Alternative to Facebook Discussion Group, something like that. Although I've not really interacted, I was invited to it. I've been watching what's going on in there, and they've been doing polls and getting opinions on Gab and VK and all of them. I say Parler's come up literally in the last few days, and apparently there's people are going over there in their droves. How true that is, how good it is, I can't. But anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, wasn't it?
I got thank you. That's good to know. I've not seen or heard of that one, Parler. I've joined Gab a year ago, 6 months ago. My mum, believe it or not, told me about that from RT News. I think from a report she saw on there saying alternative to, because it's Russia Today. It's not the best news channel, but it's better than the Beeb and CNN and ABC, America's national broadcasting networks, and the British broadcasting networks with the mainstream narratives. It was on RT is a little bit better, and she says look at Gab, and you sent me something about Gab not so long ago, and there isn't. We've been testing some, haven't we, ready for the transitional movement to say hello to others on different platforms that isn't so much restricted, but VK was awful. Russian ladies coming on, hey baby, wow.
Yeah, and only just joined, and three women. Oh, here we go. I'm too old. Leave me alone. I know what it all looks like. Okay, I don't want to see it anymore. Thank you.
So look, Steve's here commenting. Can you see the room? Let's have a look on.
Yeah, I'm just sort of reading through Steve's comments. Why can't I get an arrow up? Oh, it's gonna. Oh, I hate it when it messes me. Oh shit, that was a bit quick. That's what all the girls say.
No, they used to.
Yeah, used to when it worked. Anyway, no. Where was I? Right, okay. So I've got Steve there. I was on Charles Ford today. Is right, Greg. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, just yeah. They want money. Yeah, isn't that funny? The Nasara just like, yes, you're all worth $6 million, but we need some of your money to go and get it. Of course you do.
Do it pro bono, for yeah. If it's that, like I said to Steve, for the $5,000 for the trust, well, we take it out of the winnings, mate. Do it pro bono. Oh, we can't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Spain, Charles Ward. In Spain, like what you said about Greece there, we got Charles Ward in Spain then, eh? Charles Dickens of Spain.
What are they all doing? Nobody's in England.
We are.
These people telling you what to do. That's another thing. I don't know if anybody else knows, but I was, as far as I am aware, so this basically what I've been told, okay? I cannot confirm nor deny, but Peter of England is also Steve Knight of Deathless. All the same con job and all that lot. So that's something I'd like confirmed.
Look at
if anybody knows.
He used to do bare knuckle fights with travellers for money. What? Oh, you want to buy a caravan?
Yeah. Like dags. Like dags.
Oh, man. I know, good people and bad people, your pineal gland. Yeah, you have a gut feeling, you can feel the vibe.
Go with it.
Yeah, I had a chat with Brother Serge today, who was, I won't reveal the contents, but he's picked up, he's good like that, he's very good, and I know a few others that can just tell. It shouldn't be booked. Look, you don't form an overall opinion, but your first impressions obviously count. Your vibes and how you interact, and quite a lot of us initiates of self know, like Mia said the other week, the bullshit meter is on strong. So yeah, we respect that and appreciate the feelings, how you use that radar that we have, the way that you sense that. It's sometimes not what is said, it's how it's said or what isn't said. Like what we see, people coming out, groups, trusts, whatever, with all these outlays of remedy, but it doesn't seem to add up, does it? It doesn't seem to stack up, and I'm quite sceptical now. Maybe it's the age or the years we've been doing this, but there we go.
I see a lot of, for want of a better phrase, schoolboy errors in people are they're on the right track, and then they'll say about, when you go into court and stuff like this, you go in persona. I went, like, no. No, that's exactly what you don't want to be. I say silly little things. You're going in the right direction, and then they sort of misunderstand it along the way, where they're meant to be and what their position is. We had somebody in the room the other week, I think the last broadcast we did, might have been the one before that, but came in and she was explaining the positions in the court, and totally backwards. And I mean totally backwards. No, that's what they want you to believe. you need to change it, sort of thing. But yeah, it's just silly little mistakes. So you're on the right track, but you're not understanding the positions, or even to an extent what the birth certificate is and how to use it. You don't need to get rid of it. You just got to know how to use it and when to use it and in what capacity. Simple as that. You don't need to be registering and giving it away to other people.
Don't blame it on the good times. Don't blame it on the man. You blame it on the mister. That's who you blame it on. It wasn't me, it was him. These are not the Jedis you are looking for. He is the...
Blame it on the bear thing.
That's right. It's on the mister. It's the mister that's guilty. The mister owes that. Oh, in that case, let me get him. Boom.
Yeah. And just as I go to collect it, to remind you about the United Nations Charter of Human Rights and my right not to be a person, I'll just get the certificate.
Yeah.
Have that. We'll start there. An opening shot, a shot across the bow, while I retrieve my instrumentation with which to come and play in your legal realm a little bit.
It's I'll say this with love and respect, but John Harris's R.I.P. to John, but his untimely exit and the way that the I don't know, the lack of information and the rumours spread about that brother and his work towards the end, and him allegedly, I don't know for fact. I've spoke to mans that say they've known him well, and some say they grew up with him and they know him. They've chatted to me and emailed me and said they don't know, they're not sure. And if they don't know and they're not sure, I'm definitely not sure. And I only know what I see. I've never met the man before my time, and I was around, but I wasn't into it as deep as what we are now. And him allegedly rescinding the certificate is where I think that ball started, and then he was no longer to be seen or heard allegedly. R.I.P. if he did pass away, and his untimely demise and the rumours that surround his disappearance, death, exiting, and no longer in the public realm. But maybe man found a remedy to go into the private, and what happens with that, as far as I know, or what will happen with me, is that Mr. David Jeremita will have a civil death, and there may be a need when we actually get into the private and beat this beast system, then maybe one of the conditions will be, well, you've called the truce, you've caught us out, what we're going to do is honour this, you're going to move to the private, but Mr. David, you give us the certificate back, here's your equity card, there's your account, this is the agreement, a non-disclosure, terms and conditions, trust, transfer, offices, contacts, all of the details, and you rescind the certificate, you get your equitable relief, and Mr. Stephen, Mr. David, Mr. Kevin is going to be publicly, in the obituaries, is gone, is dead. And so to all that don't know, it's kind of cruel, this, in a way, isn't it? Because they're going to really believe that you've died, passed away, exited the realm, which is a civil death, much like going into the clergy, the cloth, or into the army. They are, in the private, in the army, you are a private, you go in the cloth. I've met 2 or 3 men that were in the cloth that aren't, and have told me a little bit about the administration there, and you are civilly dead. So a civil death, that's what John did. And so the certificate would be rendered back to Caesar, the surname, all the liabilities, the public, and you go to the private. So I could see how man could be seen as exiting the realm, but not really exiting the realm. So again, we don't know, do we? It's annoying, to say the least. But I would expect a civil death would occur.
I'm a bit confused on Steve's last comment there, Steve. Is it good to use it as our bills of exchange? So is the birth certificate? Well, now that's an interesting question. I'm going to read. I think the bills of exchange, when it comes to bills, debts, etc., that's useful there. The birth certificate is usable in certain obviously the benefits and that, or entitlements, to say, you call them entitlements because that's what they are. You've paid in for that. I think it's like anything. You would have to. Is it conducive? Is it beneficial for you to use that certificate, that paperwork, in whatever the situation is? Ultimately, you still have to control it, but there are some situations where being it isn't a problem. As I say, it's a bit like fighting battles, isn't it? You got to pick them, and do you want to be? Is it going to be detrimental to be the person, or if you like us, just always clarify the different. I think it's important always to clarify it. I don't think it's always necessary. It is my honest. That's my experience. You don't necessarily have to go, oh, I'm so and so, and that's my person. Or you don't have to do that. But for me, it's just a very good thing to do from the off. I say I can get people through stuff. Be the person, be the signature. Write to them as that. Don't even go down. Don't even get involved in the other stuff we do. You're still going to get the result you need. But obviously, when they start messing you about with entitlements and stuff, that's when you want to start making distinct. When you're starting to have to go into tribunals and stuff, that's when I think you start clarifying and standing by your position, who you are, etc., etc. Because obviously they're trying to get the name assessed and things like that, when it's actually the flesh and blood that needs assessing, and that's who they want to treat you as. So that's where our argument comes in. Well, I'm this, I've got a right to protect my health, I've got this, that, and the other, I need proper medical assessment. You just want my bit of paper to be put through by idiots. That's when it's important, when you stand in your ground with stuff. I would have thought, on what you're saying, from what you're saying there, I haven't had another look to see if he was. You have sort of agreed. So I'm glad I got it right. I'm not just rambling on, Steve. And then I look down, you go, no, it's not what I meant, Kev.
Well, can I just say that the bills of exchange is a private remedy that you can't use in the public. You use it in your paperwork. You would try to privately remedy and settle matters, get full satisfaction via the transfer via endorsement. So the signature would endorse, and you transfer across. So we look at accepted for value when somebody gives you something, when it's financial, not a charge or a civil issue with the officers and the court. So keep it financial, keep it as a bill. It's not a bill, because under the bills of exchange, I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper now, because I'll lose the thought. I was waiting, and I need to say that a bill under the bills of exchange is not a summary of account statement, number one. That's what you receive. So why do they call a bill a summary? Why do they call a summary of account statement for your electricity, water, all of the municipal supplies there? Why would they call that a bill? Well, we've looked at what a bill is. Bills are passed in Parliament, acts, statutory orders, and bills. You give an order, you get a bill. It's a military terminology. We got into it deep there, but we'll come back up. So the bill that you allegedly get is not a bill. So what is it? It's a statement of accounts, and it has the credit slip. Is it the Transjara credit slip at the bottom? And you can accept that document for value. And if you research on here, we've got quite a lot in the forum, Steve. Type in accepted for value, as in 4 words, and then also use A for V, Alpha, number 4, Victor. And look at the procedure there that we found. I haven't successfully done this. I'm a ghost, like this .com is, and I have hidden myself away from the legal realm. I haven't got remedy. I'm not really being honourable, but it suits me to do this for the time being. Man David, my person is missing in action, to be fair, not reporting in, not signing, not contracting. So I'm prepared to get my teeth sunk into that, but that's small fry. Not small fry because it's big bills, they're problems, but we're after souls, escape, back to the tree of life, the CEST KV, the CEST case, CEST KV, and the ways there. So my focus is on the top prize, the top shelf. But bills, you look at you've looked at accepted for value and A for V. Then you look at bills of exchange, BOE, and the bills of exchange 1882, and you'd immerse yourself in that. If you can get a digitalised document, I think there might be one in the bills of exchange, maybe in the literature library. Open it up after downloading, and then you can use Control on the keyboard and F. That will bring up a search box. So when I'm faced with a document, which often we are, and it's got 80 to 300 pages, and I know I write documents and I say how many pages and 35,000 words across whatever. I'm used to that depth, but others, they'll sit there and try and read it, you know, and you get lost, and they're designed to bore you, confuse you, and they are relevant, but they're not worded and they're not written as we convert, have dialogue now, not simple like benefits claims and the way they speak to you and the language, what Kevin found out with the rulings. So you'd look at keywords, you Control and F, bills of exchange, transfer, endorsement, discharge, bill, statement, these kind of words, things that you want, and we'll put this in the forum later on. I'm sure in the forums there's quite a lot of information for you. So we have the bills of exchange, we have bills, and then we have statements of accounts, and we have the endorsement to transfer and the charges. But then when you've got all of this, you need to look at money, bankruptcy, credit, cash, intrinsic value, which we've done and we can help you with. So then we look at what is a value, you know, what is the pound sign denoting, what is that value of? Because if there's no gold, silver backing of the money, I think silver backs the stamps though, to be fair, I need to check that definitely. I believe stamps, English stamps, are backed by silver, weirdly, for some reason, because they've got a value to them and they're valuable, but they're not like money. But we stick that onto the bottom right, top right for value added to that. So we've added value, 2 pence, 4 pence, 5 pence to that statement, and we transfer via endorsement, or we discharge and transfer via endorsement, and we would let them know that they're now the agents, we're the grantor, there's a credit slip, a transgiro credit slip, if I've got it right. It did take me a while, this really did do my head in for some years, let me tell you. And when I met Richard and I found out set law, the back of it, endorsement, and there's some text there in here, they're definitely the text to put on the reverse of the bill, the summarised statement, and you put at the angle, the includes the national insurance number. So what we missed a trick here is brother Michael on Facebook did a post and tagged me and said, oh, there's a .gov.uk site here and it's from the government, and it says it's a special page, fam, to say you cannot pay a bill with a birth certificate. And I was like, so Michael was saying, here Dave, you got it wrong, because the government, well, who's gonna believe? Number one, are the government really going to tell you the truth and not to fox you about? Number one. And number two, I said, no, that's right. You can't pay a bill with a birth certificate. It's instrumentation, and it's a bonded, instrument of sorts. So the instrument is not money itself. It's an entity, an ID. It's registered on the Bond Street, Wall Street, stock market, high frequency traded. It's not a method of actual bills of exchange money to go into that managing infrastructure. It's something else. So what we do is we use the employee identification number, or as it's no longer identification, indemnification number, and we also have an International Monetary Fund issued national insurance number, social security number, SIN, a number, and we would look at that. That is from the International Monetary Fund, not from the government. It's from the centralised bank of the world, the legal world at present. So we'd use these bits to then use for the transfer and endorsement. So I'll wrap up with, you go shopping, you walk around, and this is contract world now, because they've got prices on things. You don't have to buy them, but you look at the value, you look at the goods, and you think, actually, I'm going to take that. That's the cheapest I've seen it. So you consider all the things of contract are there. I'm going to summarise, and you put that into your basket trolley, and you go round and you come to pay. Now, how can you pay when we're all bankrupt and there's no backing to the money, and there's Chapter 11 and the gold insolvency and all that we've brought you and found that's in the acts, the bills, the statutory, the legislation, the history, the banking constitution, many areas all back up and say the same. So we look at it and think, you give me a receipt here. A receipt, well, that's not a bill, that's a receipt, you see. So why am I getting a receipt when you should be billing me for the the new 50-inch plasma TV that I've decided to buy because it's £100 cheaper than anywhere else. Am I buying that? How can I buy it if I have no money and I've got debt notes? Why am I getting a receipt and giving you promissory notes for that receipt? That's not a bill, that's a receipt. So why aren't you giving me a bill? When I go to have a meal and I give an order to the waiter and I eat my meal with Anne-Marie and we come to leave, garçon, yeah, we're doing Spanish here, Manuel, garçon, waiter, and get the bill. He will present you on the table in Greece, Italy, America, England, all across the realm, in the legal realm. You were then presented with a bill for your order. Remember what I said about parliaments and the way that works. So that's correct. You've ordered him, he's gone away, they've given you food out of the kitchen, they've slaved away for you, and they want their payment. But we're paying with debt notes, to be fair, and they'll take them. You can use your credit card, which is yours on a Baylor relationship there, and you can transfer and discharge this way. But we're transferring debts from the sweat equity notes, promissory bank notes, to them. So we're adding to the national debt, because the more of these banknotes that are in circulation, the higher the debt goes up from the government to them private bankers and the Federal Reserve. The Fed Reserve has just been recently put back into, I did a post earlier, I'll get it on the .com tomorrow. That looks interesting, the fact that the US government now has control via Trump of the Federal Reserve. England, the Queen, I found out the other day somebody apparently has bought the Buckingham Palace and the Queen rents it out. The Bank of England is not the Queen's. It's, as we've brought you in the historical revelations there. So there's a lot. It's not easy to sort your head out around this, but use that key information there and give me some comments, please, both of you. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
It is.
Absolutely amazing. I was just going to jump in. Right, Steve, you have put... Right, so going back to the registrar question. Registrar, yes. Which one? Would you do it to the chief registrar? Would you also copy the treasury in? I'm asking you, mate. I don't know the answer.
No, it's...
That's all I'm getting at.
Chief Executive Officer. I've never done it successfully, so I can't tell you 100%, but I believe the companies have a Chief Executive Officer, they have a Chief Financial Officer, a CEO, a CFO, we have the Treasury, but if you're in the trustee default position, assumption, presumption, all of this that we have, trustee title, and you haven't corrected that, then you haven't got the authority, according to them, not me, to do that, and to you can instruct and authorize and correct and then require from them and put them under their... Let me think now. If you appoint a trustee and they don't do as they're said in the private, and you later come to a judicial venue, it's something like they are disclaiming their duties, and they are then can be held as contemptible as sorts under the 1911 Perjury Act. If you've got the paperwork to say you've tried to sort this out in the private papers, the paperwork.
You need to look up Trustees Act as well. Trustees Act
2000, yeah, that's for legal trusts there for the England.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, that will tell you, if you are in that realm, at least it'll tell you what they're meant to be doing.
Yeah, it's good reference. It really is. Yeah, and you would look at then in the judicial realm, there would be dishonour. What we are masters of doing, Kevin, I, and a few of you, is in the private, getting the corporations, claimants, companies, it's a claim, they're asking for value off you, they've given you a bill, they've issued you an NOI, an SOI, and things like this under the doctrine of any unacknowledged notices. 3 of them in their realm mean that you agree. We don't, because there's mitigating circumstances and things that happen in life where you can't respond and you need extra time for some reason. But because you haven't let them know an interface, like I say, a controversy that is put into law, the code is then needing to be clarified, and ignorance will not remedy it, because in trust claims, any uncontested claim on the trust will be paid out after 3 months. So they have weird rules that aren't cricket, that aren't honourable. But you would look at not the registrar, I don't know, because the registrar seems to me to be somebody that registers stuff and that has a licensing, it's not licensing, a bonding type, registry. They're taking titles from. When you look at the word register and why we register, if we register, what happens with the DVLA, the iron horse, the asset, the son, the daughter, the blood, and what happens to the pair that rents and the titles that you have. So once you register and you go to a registrar and you start interfacing, you need to be very careful because the titles get moved without full disclosure. So property entitlements there. The registrar in England is the births, deaths, and marriages registrar. That would be officers that we deal with finance and no registration. But there is a registrar general, surgeon general, registrar general, and they wouldn't manage finances. The treasury, as did you say, Kev, the treasury or something would. If you had problems, we could look at Priti Patel, the Home Office. We could look at appointing correcting and appointing them to be in their fiduciary capacity. And if they disclaim it and they won't, we can push them with the paperwork for disclaiming the duties. And once recognised and they've not done that, then the paperwork would serve as some kind of built up the end that you'd use in the judicial realm to then put them into the default position. So when a rogue looks at it, you don't have to say anything. Your paperwork will precede you. I refer you to my paperwork because, as Kevin Webster said, was it not Kevin Webster? Bloody arts. Kevin, somebody, Bills of a Webster, Paul Webster. Kevin Webster. Paul Webster of Raconteurs, was it? There's a video on this channel where he says he was chatting with him in the magistrates. And he was arguing, he's in honour, he's tried to discharge it, and the judge is like, but have you paid it? Have you paid any money from that account to this account, and has it been satisfied? Well, no, I've transferred via endorsement. What? What's this? And the clerk's like, bills of exchange, it's a private remedy, but you're in a magistrate's public courthouse. You can have a little bit of lingo, but it's better to be in honour and to have that paperwork, get them in default. We've got all the legal courtroom positions locked down where we know who the claimants are we all sworn in, we are not the defendant. We've got a lot of strength now to say, there you go, submit forward on the record, I'm here in a special appearance in a non-representative capacity. There is the debtor, I am the creditor, I'm Man David, we are not the party, there's the debtor. Judge, I refer you to my paperwork, please, I require you to look at the paperwork. I will remain in honour. I will not breach the code. Have a look at the paperwork. Let me know what you think. It's all in there. And if he tries to trick you and ask you, I don't answer questions. It's in the paperwork. It's been constructed by myself and my advocate. I believe there have been the charges because it's a charge. See, there you go. It's not a bill. It's not a debt. It's a charge. What you do, you charge batteries. You charge. A horse charges. When the army is in a battle, what does the captain shout? Charge! After me! Come on, sovereigns, follow me, charge! What did the crazy horse say in the Wild West, in the frontiers, in any battle? Charge! Charge of the Light Brigade. Charge your dead cell. Charge is not a bill. So that charge can be discharged. We discharge any debt. I yield. Sorry. Go.
Fair play. Yeah, I'm still in the room just reading Steve's stuff. Just going back, Steve, to... Oh, Christ. Let's fuck this up. Oh, excuse me. Right. The next comment down, I'll come back to the registrar and all the rest of it in a minute. You've got, but as man, we are not the land. As personam, you're the water. No. As persona, no M, you are water. That's your mask, your persona, your straw man, your fiction. That's your persona. In personam is as man.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you got the...
Personam is here I am right here now in personam. I go into court and say, I'm Mr. Kevin Phillips. I'm in persona. That's the difference, mate. So, yes, you're sort of right, just the personam and persona, which is easily confusing, to be quite honest. But that's the difference there, I contend.
Yeah,
you're right. It's just the word you've used it's just one letter too many. So your first bit about but as man. So as man, you're in personam, which you've put in there. But on the water, you're in persona. If you're claiming the name, you're in persona. Personally, see that bit. The other bit you just put in there about the birth certificate not having a surname. What do they mean by that? I'm a little bit confused by that comment before 69. Because I've got a birth certificate here from before 69 with a surname on it. It's mine.
I'd just like to draw you. I'd like you to word search again, persona, and then when you add an M to persona, you've got person am. But if you break this word down, you've got person am in personam. So that's telling you. We chatted before about this. The am, the person. We take it backwards. Is the language of the subconscious is backwards. Am person, a person am persona, and it's a legal definition. Equity uses this, which is your natural. Let me think. The natural person in the legal person. So you could be a natural, but the word person is still there. God is not a respecter of person. Man, flesh and blood is seldomly, if ever, recognised only via paperwork, autograph, witnesses, and certain documents that will make them run off. To be fair, the lower magistrates and crown in the flesh and the blood. They used to say to use blood thumbprint, prick it and put the blood down. We use the red instead, but I've just gone to DuckDuck so you don't get it from the .com. So I'm going to put this link into the chat for you, Steve. Legal definitions of in personam. It's Latin, as we found out when I use this as an example, and I'm not going to give you all of this, but I'll let you go on your journey there and look at persons and a man, the legal all caps, yes, which is default debtor, and then you've got the natural person, but that's like I say, it's like a Russian doll. When you think you're out of the matrix, you need to keep getting out. It's not just one skin, but legally you can, instead of being the all caps Mr., you can go in personam and you can evoke equity. But equity doesn't act for the flesh and blood. It's a legal constraint. Legal is not law, L-O-R-E. So we have the person as the debtor, all caps Mr., the title you claim. Are you Mr. David John? Yes, I am. Well, Mr. is a title. Lord, a ladyship, lordship, Lord is a ship. It's legal. And personam, persons, am the person. And you can look at the etymological references to that, and it's good that you asked that, and we talk about this. But the Latin, the church, okay, again, is coming in there. So it seems initially, a good, excellent place to be. But I didn't always say this with Smithy and highlight stuff. I do keep stuff to myself, and I don't give everything away all at once. But look at legal dictionaries, look at Oxford, look at Latin, look at Merriam's, Black's, and all these kind of things, and you'll find out. Here's the link for my DuckDuck search, and then I'll yield. Yeah. Search.
I must admit, I don't know anything about the registration side of it. As I say, I've got my original certificate here. But I've never had to go. Actually, I've got to get a full one anyway at some point. So I've not really had enough dealings with them to know what's going on with them. What else have we said? Yeah, persona am is man. Persona is fiction.
Yes, you got your legal fiction, all caps, and then you've got you can be a natural person, because you've got a corporation is not man, but you can have man represented in legal realm with, you see, because you're automatically default if you go as Mr. All Caps, which everybody does. We found equity and trust, and we found out there was a natural person that can be standing there and then interface honourably, non-vexatiously, and evoke equity, which means in law to go from all caps, debtor, sinner, etc. You can then, because a company, every company you see is always all capitals. Every company in the world, in the legal realm, commerce will always be. I challenge you to send me a company name that's in lowercase. It's very, very hard to find. You will find your natural legal person, then your natural person can have lowercase, but what they do is they remove the Mr. and they'll call you David Jeremita, but capital D, capital G. And I was sold by that, and then I realised when I was going through the grammatical errors, perfections, Latin and so forth, it took me a while to cotton on. The naming of an object and a noun starts with a capital letter. I was like, what? What do you mean an object? And now, oh, okay, yeah. So there, you're becoming an object and a thing still. So you're not man, and we can talk this out. Persona. Here's the duck for that as well, and then search the .com as well and compare and contrast, and you'll find the differences there, boys. But yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just typed an answer into Steve because you were talking. Yeah, it's 2 words, mate. 2 words, Steve, not 1 word. In as in the house, in the car, personam, or in persona.
Yeah.
It's in.
And mask, you're right there, Latin. You got to look because the courts have Latin running through there. They have the legalese, and they're basically a vessel in dry dock. So they are pirates, and they're coming to rob I. And there's a way out, but that's not. We can go one more, you see, and we've gone elevated up. So you start off all caps public sine debtor, and we go up one to in personam, and we go from the all caps to the lowercase. We drop the Mr. the title, and we go in with different rights to the corporation, because corporations have a set commercial amount of rights. Companies have rights. We are a company. What company do you keep, fam? And so companies are military. I'm from company Murphy Troop 576 such and such brigade. So a company, sorry to do this, but charging horses, battles, your company that you keep, what's your business with that young lady there? I assure you, my interest in that young business, I intend to make that lady my partner. What? Stop it. It's wrong. So we're going up some tiers from the all caps to the no Mr. lowercase name, beginning with the 2 capitals, David, Jeremita, DG caps. Then you're an object and a thing, but you've got better rights. You can involve your human rights there as well. You can't go into the Admiralty, Maritime, lower de facto courts and tell them one thing, because they can't hear you, they can't see you. So we've learned to interface and slowly skip up the levels, and if we can't put them in default, we'll use the person and we'll move up, and the paperwork will precede you. If you don't have the paperwork and you've turned up there and you've got nothing, then as we've said before, and as Roger said, it's too late to say I don't consent when you stood in front of a judge, a road, a banker, and you've got no paperwork, no witnesses, no correspondence. They're going to give you a summary judgment and run amok. So it's very key and integral how we've learned from Magna Carta, Constitution, Freeman to what we're doing now, which is why I'm getting so much heat. We're getting so much heat and attacks, and I'm getting some attacks myself for these reasons, because we're not supposed to know this.
Yes.
Indeed.
Now you know why they say ignorance is bliss. It's bliss for them that are in charge. Our ignorance is their bliss.
And there's a link. You're right there, brother. I agree. For the Liber code, we've got a code there, which is I'm not going to explain it. I'd like you to search all of these keywords I'm saying onto the .com as well. LIEBER, and the Liber code is something that I want you to look into about. Just for your own knowledge and how that works there. Why that's important, because there's another one, Lex Mercatoria, from way back when. You can find that in publications, the Liber code, and there's another one is the Unidroit, church, commerce, monarchy, treaties, agreements. They are treaties, I suppose, agreements. And the Liber code is sometimes referred to as the first modern codification of the laws of war, humanitarian law, international, named after its main author, Francis Liber. The code regulated a variety of legal issues, in particular interplay between military necessity and the principle of humanity. And that's dark, it really is. It was April the 24th, 1863, also known as the General Order Number 100. was an instruction signed by US President Abraham Lincoln to the Union forces of the states during the American Civil War that dictated how soldiers should conduct themselves in wartime. But it's got deep connotations into other things as well. I've skimmed on that. We'll cover this again a different time. But anybody that's on the replay or that wants to comment, you can do so, and I'll give you a links for that. I've put it in. I'll get the Unidroid for you as well. I appreciate most of this might go over people's head, but we'll come back with this another time.
Anybody listening back to this later, let me just say, I know there's a lot of everything to take in, but these things, at least try and get this stuff downloaded so you've got somewhere, and just glance through this stuff when you get a minute. Look at it all, read every word, but just start, because you'll find something will pique your interest, and all of a sudden you'll start seeing stuff in there. You'll see all this stuff's there. Just go look. There's plenty of help for us. We just got to go look for it. It's all there.
Me book. You just got to look for it, boss.
You got to look for me book. That paste.
There's a link for Unidroid as well. Then under Libre code. Oh, too many bloody. All right, I can't give you that. Too many.
Yeah, we know. I'd say, Steve, you're right, mate. The idea is, not mess with them, but don't get involved. Conditionally accept. But we all know it all goes the same way. They don't give a fuck. But what else can you do? They're the ones. This is the ridiculous thing. They're the ones that are the criminals, and we're the ones paying the price for their criminality. It's frustrating, but yeah, if you don't go in, and if you can get away with not going in, I mean, it looks like some of the stuff that's just coming to light now that Dave's been talking about, on top of what we already use, we should be able to shut this stuff down with the courts. Really should be able to just go, hang on a minute, it's just X, Y, Z, this is who I am, and under this, that, and the other, and let's just go, okay, forget them. Too well educated, can't get any cash out of them, leave them alone. That's what we want from them idiots.
Yeah.
I know, mate. We get dragged in and saying the worst thing is you've got all this knowledge and you go in and they just don't give a shit. You try and do it politely in letters, all above board, they don't give a shit. That's the truth. They just crack on anyway. And the really hard thing to take is knowing what we all know. The people that are just cracking on, they haven't got a clue. They absolutely haven't got a clue how any of this works. Certainly not at desk level and administrative level. It's not until you're getting up into higher echelons that these people understand what's going on. So that's why they just do what they do. Well, of course we're the law. Well, of course I work for. How dare you argue with us? I will just carry on with your absence for a peasant. That's how they think, because they think it's all above board. They have no idea. I don't need to tell you all this, but that's how deep this fucking bullshit goes. People think. I mean, how many people could you tell that the DVLAs are dissolved and they just shrug their shoulders? Oh yeah, but I'm paying my road tax and next to it. Yeah, exactly. But they're a dissolved company. Don't that make you want to ask questions? No. That's what we're up against.
Yeah, well said.
Now that's what's scary, is the people that you're trying to point out that what they're doing is criminal don't get it. Hence we all end up, walk into a court and tell the judge that it's a private business and what's going on and all the rest of it. Even if you manage to walk out there or get them to walk out, I guarantee a few days later you'll get your summary judgment through the door anyway. They don't give a shit.
If they were privy to the facts and they were, in their words, a learned party, then learned in itself, then they would be committing real crimes, because I did say that to Steve when Steve made a video of him ringing up the TV license lady and was saying that the legal occupier of this address, she was like, what's the address? He's like, well, I'll give you the reference. He's like, no, I need to. He's like, I'm not giving you the name. I'm not giving you the address. I'm not contracting with you. He played it quite vexatiously. Poor I'm not saying poor, but she sounded quite I don't know, elderly and a female
Yeah.
elderly attendant on the phone for TV license. It wasn't a banker, it wasn't a bailiff, it was just a television license operative agent on the phone. And he was like, well, you take this reference and it will all come up. I've got to be the one in this house because I've got the letter with the reference on to tell you about it. So have a look at this. And I was like, when we had a chat, I went, if they did know the truth and they were trained, Steve, then that would be an even bigger crime than what it is now. That's why we don't hold the little ones, the underlings, the agents as such to account, because it's the principal above them that instructs. So you've got the government principals and you've got the CEO and the CFO. So we would say on the phone, are you legally trained? No. I've said this to an officer, a constable, or even officers and constables. I've done it both, and the answer is no. I'm like, what? Do you mean you're not legally trained? What are you doing then as the authority of, how do you, so even the police, that's why we don't vexate with them, and we say, well, if you don't know what you're doing, and you're in the uniform, and you're purporting law, you've stopped man on his travels of whatever, for freely travelling around, not business, no commerce, there's no contract with you, I don't join, I've told you what go on, there's no victim, there's no crime. So if we've got witnesses, and you're trying to assist this company to break down a door or to extort money on the roadside, and you've got an iron horse full of, or even your missus or something, then they don't know. And we don't hold that to them. We go to the captains and the commissioners and the commanders and the chiefs, and we say, now then, John nearly ended up losing his house yesterday, but luckily he listened to sense and reason. Or he might give you a producer or something, weird stuff. Officers, I've been there, and officers have left, and I've got the telephone call on the channel, and the bailiffs have left, and I was just on a phone, and I did that for an elderly Asian gentleman, one of the lads that I worked with in the warehouse. Police turned up at his dad's house, and his dad let them in, being elderly and the language barrier, and was being honourable. Once they were in, they were going to take stuff, and he was like, and he rung his son rung me, and I had to ring back and deal with all of that. So we can do that on the telephone verbally. We can do a lot with paperwork, a hell of a lot. Hello, Marie. It's all right, we're not live on Tube, we're just live on .com. Do you want to come and say hello? Do you want to show them your face? Please, come on. My beautiful queen. She's wearing a Star Wars t-shirt I bought for Christmas as well. It's what kind of queen I have. Yeah, baby.
Nice.
Bless. So, yeah, legally trained is the key.
Yes.
They're not.
No, they're not. Exactly. I was going to say, Priti Patel's DUNS number. I don't think if that's it. Don't be wrong, Steve. I don't take this the wrong way. I don't mean it. I don't think it's that expensive to get it, is it? It's only about £3.
What's this?
If you go through Dun & Bradstreet, the DUNS number for Priti Patel.
Well, I got Boris's and 4 others, Sajid Javid, all for free. And on the 5th attempt, when I was wanting another 3 or 4, I couldn't get them. So if you search Lindsay on here, we've got them all on here. There's a user, a supporter.
Lindsay Ann Stanton.
Boom, and they're in Facebook, but he doesn't have Facebook. So if you search for, I'll get them tomorrow. Remind me tomorrow. Put a post on the .com, Steve, and you shall have them sent to you or posted for everybody. Lindsay Ann Stainton, is it?
Well, you can just for FYI, Steve. You go on to Dun & Bradstreet, make sure it's the UK one, obviously. I say that because he actually only gave me the option. I happened to look the other day, and there's the options there, so I nearly ended up in the American version. But anyway,
I went there too.
It tells you there how to get it done. It's like literally one of the little blue titles underneath the main name. How to get a DUNS number, click on it, tell you how to do it. I'm sure it's about £3. It used to be a couple of quid. I know a full company report is about £6 or £10 or something. It's nothing, really.
I thought you meant £3 to search and get. No, I've got you. Yeah, that's really cheap then. £3. Wow.
I mean, it used to be, but I know you could get a full, because you get a basic info just doing a quick search. But if you want detailed stuff like who the directors are and all that sort of thing, you pay a fee and they send it to you. Simple as that. I think it's sent by email. It's probably encrypted. They probably send you a thing, but it's a peanut. I'm sure it's less than £10. Less than £10 for a full report. It could be that I'm right. It's like £3. Roger Taylor used to get them, but back then, that was the early days. It was about £2 a throw. I think it might have gone up to 3. But I'm telling you, it's under a tenner for a full company report, and anybody can get them. But yeah, you just got to just follow what it says on there and do it through PayPal or whatever. If you've got PayPal, says you put any details into what's it? But computer's terrible.
Because we're waffling on and we're sticking on this same subject, I'm conscious of needing a break and going on tube as well.
Yeah.
There's no danger, there's no upset. I'm all over the .com. What I want to say is the Child Protection Act and our working together, Kev, on the conditional acceptance. Would you like to expand on that?
Oh,
because that's brilliant. That's amazing what we're doing here. This is amazing work.
Yeah,
bills, but just
I've been approached by a family member. I really like the fella as well. He's got some grief going on. It sounds like there's a lot of bullshit going on. So he's had some contact from the private SS. If you know, I don't want to say the full. Everybody knows SS, and I don't mean the German ones. Sticking their noses in as a private business, all sorts of claims they're making. So we got approached. Between us, I've rattled up sort of the beginnings of conditional acceptance with a few questions, and I've gone over to Dave because Dave's had a little bit more, a lot more experience than me in the family realm stuff. I was fortunate when I got divorced. I never got any problem over the kids or anything, so I never had to go through any of that. But Dave, so I've done some stuff. I've sent it to Dave. Dave's having a look. There's some words being changed and some stuff added, but really quite powerful. It only ran to. It runs at 4 pages at the moment, and really the last page 4 is really the sign off. To be honest, so it's 3 pages. Powerful, no. Should certainly stop most things in its tracks at the moment, and certainly make them sit up and think about what they're doing. It will certainly make them realise that they're knocking on the wrong door if they're looking to take the piss. Excited about that. I mean, sort of excited. It'd be nice to see what happens with it.
We're having fun, aren't we, with this one? This is some fun work for us. Bit of pleasure. Saving a soul, the family, and interfacing with the council, guardianship.
Yeah, just saying, funny enough, and I don't know if anybody spotted my comment the other day. So while I was doing it, I'd sort of mostly finished my part of the letter, the document, sent it over to Dave. And then I was sitting there, and I thought, oh, okay, just while I'm sitting here, let's go and get the registration number of the council and blah blah blah, just so I can throw it in there, and go, oh, by the way, you're registered, your private corporation is your registration number. And the most amazing thing happened. They're not registered at all.
Whoops.
And I'm talking a major council here. I'm not talking a little, a major council. And when I went into company's house, basically I put the name in, and company's house went, congratulations, that registration's available if you want it. I thought, what? What do you mean it's not registered? And it's not registered. There's no results for it. So I've added a question in, which is supply us your company registration number and your VAT reg number, because I think they're going to come back to another firm. And I've got a feeling I already know who that is. But yeah, so the company I went looking for, and I'm telling you, it's a major county council in this country, and I mean major, is not registered.
We've got the job centre being dissolved, the courts not being there. It's all just madness what we're finding. You couldn't make this up.
No, it's crazy. So yeah, as soon as I put this name in, it went, you can have that if you want. Why don't you register it now? I thought, what do you mean? I can register it. It should be bloody registered. People are paying money to this company that's not registered. What do you mean? It's just crazy. So I'm going to get another couple of people on it. I did do a little bit more searching, and I found some company numbers associated with the name of the entity, allegedly associated, but I haven't done any more searching. I'm going to go and probably tomorrow I'll go and put those company numbers in and see what comes back. It's either going to come back registered to another entity, which is what I think is going to happen, or it'll come back and go, well, they're not registered under that number. So that's going to be very interesting. So if I can find that out before Tuesday or by Wednesday at the latest, that might be another question in there. Please, could you clarify? You're registered. Where is all this money going if your firm's not registered? How are you paying it into accounts? Have you got accounts in that name? And people are paying their money in and direct debits to that account, but the company doesn't exist. So yes, it's amazing just for a quick search what you can begin to dig up. And obviously when you start hitting stuff like that, just little questions. Could you clarify this? I've done some investigating and it appears that you're not there. Please clarify. Give me this number. Give me that number. And just discovering little things like that can be useful for you, because obviously sometimes people go, shit, we've got to be really careful now.
Yeah.
But, it's always good to ask another question. And then obviously if you put it in there and you're under a DSAR and GDPR and all the rest of it, you're asking these questions and they fail to answer, you've got to ask yourself why they failed to answer. Such a simple question like, please give me the registration, or not even please. All those words are coming out from now as well. We don't do please anymore.
Yes. We require.
Don't do please, yes. Yeah, we require.
Begging. That's right, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, please is coming out. So it's so simple to go Company's House, Dun and Bradstreet, do a simple search, put the name of the entity in, see what comes back. As I say, in this case, nothing. In fact, I got the chance to register the name. I was a little bit in shock. I was like, I didn't expect that. And then I remembered a story from about a couple of years ago where, and I've got a feeling it's the same council, but what happened was, obviously people are paying their council tax and everything to this entity. Then somebody discovered that they were either dissolved or no, I think what they discovered was it was the local constabulary that had bought the council. So the council was dissolved as such. It was owned by the constabulary, or whatever area it was. And so people started questioning, well, hang on, I'm sending checks and that to this council, and they're not even there. So obviously they discovered it was the police that owned the council. Well, that's a conflict of interest for a start, because that's the police putting their own charges on council tax for themselves.
Yeah, man.
And people were trying to stop paying because the company they were sending their money to didn't exist. It was all going to the police, but that wasn't obvious. So people said, well, why am I writing checks out or giving you X amount per month on council tax? That company I'm paying it to doesn't even exist. What the hell's going on? I've got a feeling it might be the same lot, which would make sense to me then. I'd be able to confirm it to be absolutely true. But as I say, to go to Company's House and not be registered is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
I've got a USB in. I'm just going to post on the news feed. Look under the comments for this video in SPLs, Steve, and you'll get all the numbers I have for Priti Patel. I'll put them in now. All right. It's going in. And if we can find Lindsay, if you go, it will be a while down, but you'd find Lindsay posting. You'd have to find Lindsay. I don't know, members. You can look at the address when you're on the .com, where you've got splspro.com, say /activity. If you get rid of activity, so it says splspro.com / and then put in members and press enter, you'll get a list of all the members on the .com for everybody that's supporting on an annual basis. You should be able to use a laptop and change the web address bar from activity or forums or where home, it will just say splspro.com, I think, on the home page, and then put /members, and you will find everybody there, and you can look at alphabetical supporters. It's just the way the website works. I can't change how you build a website. They have key fields and we have to accept them, so that will be members after the / and you will get a list of all the members, and you can find Lindsay and then go to her profile. I do believe a search for Dunn's numbers, there's a global search on the .com as well in the news feed. You can do a global search, which I haven't tested that on profiles, but it does forums and newsfeed. It does forums and newsfeed. So if you find on the newsfeed tab on the computer and you look at the global search and put Dunn's in or Pretty Patel and see what pops up, or Lindsay. But I'm giving you Pretty's numbers now, but for the future, you can use the global search. What? Which bit? What?
I've got no. You're Pretty. I'm giving you Pretty's numbers now.
Yeah.
I did save them all when you put them all up. I screenshotted everything. Whenever you put it up, anyway, I got it saved. Right, back to Steve. Right, Steve. Vaccines. The 19. Right. Let me just get. Fuck's sake, Kev, sort your fucking knife out. Right. The 2020 Coronavirus Act, and what's the other one? The 1984, is it the Public Health one or something that they've allegedly changed recently? I just watched something today from a news report, an independent report, and the guy is a doctor, and he's covering it. Says there's nothing in there that they can force vaccines on you. So there's nothing in the new Coronavirus Act or the applicable 1984 Act. I'm saying Public Health Act, but I think I've got that wrong. It's just gone out of my head, Steve. But he's basically, there's nothing in there that they could use to forcibly. But I tell you now, for a fact, the Nuremberg Code not only covers you, it will totally screw any medical person that tries to do that, and I mean properly screw them. It's considered, any penetration is considered rape. That's based, so even with the needle, penetration is considered rape. But you are covered on the Nuremberg Code. But as I say, the thing I saw earlier on today from an independent guy was a doctor. It was interesting. I specifically went to listen to it, and he's saying there's absolutely nothing in either of the bills that can be used to forcibly or make vaccines mandatory. So, but as I say, Nuremberg Code, United Nations Charter of Human Rights, there's loads of it. You're well protected. They won't be able to do anything, mate. The thing that's really pissing me off at the moment is, though, us, as in the taxpayers, are still going to make Bill Gates ultimately rich, because our government will still buy that shit, whether we use it or not. That's what pisses me off. So Bill Gates, they're probably still going to buy the vaccine. We're all going to pay for it. Bill Gates is going to get even richer than he is, and we don't even get any say in what is it, 60, well, for argument's sake, let's call it 70 million doses of vaccine, right? Because we're at about 66, 67 million in the country. And I do believe the tests for COVID run out at about $225 each, and the vaccine is between, I think it's somewhere between £450 and £500 a dose. We're paying for that, whether we want it or not. We're going to pay for that.
I've got two things to say. The statutory legislation and the public secular code, when you are looking at the CPR and the rulings in there, there is no way that statutory public code can override equitable relief, equitable remedy. So there's a maxim, isn't there, that says in the equitable maxims, it says, well, I do this when I think I don't know and close my eyes. What's going on here? There's an equitable maxim that says when the rulings of law and equity collide, if man is to invoke the equitable equitable, I forget the exact wording, then that will prevail. So
it will prevail. So equitable remedy will prevail. Yeah.
What Kev said, and that there, the maxims of equity, you'll find them on the searching of the forum and the global search. So, and the second thing is, on the notices and things that I'm doing, I don't seem to have Priti Patel's DUNS number. I don't know how that's happened, but I will look tomorrow on Facebook and see what we had in that torrent of numbers there, and I will look on more files, but my computer's being slow. No, I haven't got it at this moment. I will look for it and give it you tomorrow. So
yeah,
I've only got what you've got, and then I've sent Steve and Mia those notices that we are working together. Mia's gone a bit quiet actually. Has anybody spoke to Mia or seen her or them in the recent few weeks? Because I haven't seen. I don't know if she's somewhere else or I'm taking a break or something, but I haven't had any, not that I know of, not in the last week. So it's been some weeks now since I sent those provisional documents, notices, claims, proclamations for you to look at, Steve and Mia. So I've just gone and got them. Priti's DUNS number's not on there, so I'll get them tomorrow and we'll find them out for you. Sorry.
Oh, well. Yeah, okay, here's the other important thing about the United Nations Charter of Human Rights and the Nuremberg Code. Both clearly state that consent of the patient is paramount. So if you don't consent, that's it. That's it. It clearly says in there. So ultimately, but obviously Nuremberg's more powerful because that can never be nullified. Never. Because it's wartime, it's everything. It's just, that's what it is. And that's clear about it. But as I say, the latest thing today, which is sort of, it was quite uplifting for me to actually see somebody pulling apart the recent-ish legislation and the COVID stuff and saying, no, there's nothing in there that covers them being able to, or they could use to forcibly do anything. So, but as I say, ultimately, Nuremberg Code, you got him, especially if it was at your local GP, your doctor you knew. I'd be throwing that on you for saying, mate, I'll have you for war crimes if that's what if you want to play games with me, bring it on. But as I say, there's other things, Steve. There's plenty of questions. I've got loads of stuff here. Just questions you could ask. I've got one lot of things you ask about, 5 questions. Very simple questions. They have to be honest with you, and obviously this says, is it a chance I could have this type of reaction? Has it got this type of this type of cells in it? Blah blah blah. Doctor's got to be honest with you, and then you just refuse on the grounds that there's a strong possibility. I think it's a latrogenic reaction. Yeah, or iatrogenic, you can say to the, so you think, is there a chance I could have an iatrogen? And he'll have to say yes, and you just refuse on those grounds alone. But as I say, if you really want to stomp all over it, then you go, well, after that, just to make sure you're not a twat, Nuremberg Code, United Nations Charter of Human Rights, let's have a look at your private liability insurance right now in case you cause me damage. And that'll be in, gone, out the door, because none of the doctors they can't, because of what they have to do, nobody will insure them. They're all operating without personal liability insurance. Fact. So what does that tell you? If they won't, if an insurance company won't insure them, a doctor, why won't they insure them? Is that because of all the drugs they give out that are all moody? Who knows?
All right, we're going to have to wrap this up if that's all right. I've just put a post in now and tagged Lindsay. So if you look at the news feed, you'll find a link to Lindsay's profile there. and I'm tagging you now, Steve, as well, just for what it's worth. I'm putting out more bricks, so then you'll find the post there. But I think you've already got this from the notices what I send you. So the only advantage here will be getting Lindsay's link to the profile she has on here for this supporter, and then having a look through her posts there. Her and Albert assisted me on Facebook, and I believe they're there somewhere. I must have forgot to put them on. I know I've seen them, so we'll get them for you. Apologies.
Yeah, I've got some Nuremberg stuff and that on my phone, Steve. I'll send you some stuff over in WhatsApp or whatever, just so you've got some little bits you can read. But Nuremberg code's easy to find. I think I've probably got. If I've got a copy of it, I'll email it over to you. I think I've got it on me. Say most of it's on my bloody phone, to be honest. But we'll get it done, brother.
Can't believe it. Yeah.
What's happening?
Thanks for that, Steve. Yeah. Just there's Houses of Parliament, the address, and these things here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. She's got. Maybe she hasn't got a Dunn's number then, because I'm sure. Yeah, we'll have to just confirm that. I thought, why do they have Dunn's numbers? What's the difference
because they're registered business, isn't it?
Because but the Labour Party, Alistair Darling had diplomatic immunity, and the Labour Party used to trade as on Company's House, Alistair Darling Limited, in whatever it was. But I don't remember finding a Dunn's number. So sometimes they don't always have a Dunn's number. Maybe for some reason, maybe it's only there's a certain requirement for the Dunn's. I'm not an expert.
Maybe it's something to do with turnover.
There must be because Boris has and Sajid has, first and second lords of the Treasury, the police have, and all the things that we find. When I say the police, there's many derivatives of the police. Wow. And so maybe there isn't one. We need to confirm this. So this will be something to chew on tomorrow as well, brothers and sisters, but brothers now. I failed. Yeah.
Don't forget Denise is here.
There you go. And his little one who wants to be a YouTube star. That was a nice little chat the other week we had. Bless.
Well, yes, okay.
To Denise.
Looks like Steve and Denise are off anyway. That's fine. No worries. Speak to you real soon. I think we're going to wind it down, aren't we, Dave, and have a quick breather. Are we still doing YouTube?
I don't know. We'll have a chat in a minute if that's all right, and see what go on then. And
sweet.
The corona vaccinations, public, persons, mandatory. We've got to polish off human rights. You have the right not to be recognised as a person in front of the law. Boom. So once we get all this done with Claudio, myself, Kev, and yourselves here, and we get these uploaded, and I promise they'll be done in the next week for chatting and discussion. They won't be ready to use. They'll be ready to say, here are all the generals, secretaries, officers, departments. These are what we're looking at saying. You've got a copy of these, Steve. Kev's got a copy. Mia has, and not many others. So we will have a look at this and trim that. But in that, you will be able to go Health Secretary, Home Secretary, and I don't know, with Boris, I suppose, because he's actually the Prime Minister. But the secretaries will need to be noticed, agents and principals, that there is no consent and that you do not wish, and we correct, and then you should get something back like you do with jury service saying you no longer require, a confirmation, Kev?
Yeah.
We have some text that we're going to give out later or let you know on jury service, and Kevin and his brother G have found out some things about not how you don't do jury service, which is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, just with a view that it might be that it's possibly far more far-reaching than we've at first realised. When you language again, that's all I'm going to say at the moment. But we'll bring these little snippets to you. Anybody get pulled up for that? I've got you about three lines. Job done.
Yeah.
Three simple little lines on the back of their paperwork. Job done. All over.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
That was good. I said about jury nullification, it wasn't that, but that's a good way to try and get out.
Yeah.
There's your health reasons and being signed off, PIP, DLA, all these kind of things, and you can't get there. Being less able, being sick, then therefore you're classified as working. What we discussed, I mentioned jury nullification, and then Kev and G have come up with a third option of a few sentences, and it sorted it out. So kudos to you and the G man.
Yeah, it was passed on from another guy that we're hoping to get in at some point. I can't even say in the near future. This is a very busy man, but we hope to at some point, as soon as we can, introduce somebody new to you all. But this guy's at a whole nother level, and he's just given us some really, really stupidly simple stuff that you just wouldn't think about. And it's been, so that we used it the other day. Bosh, in less than 24 hours, we sent the letter on the Tuesday morning, and then a response on the Wednesday morning saying, it's okay, no problem, you're excused. It was really quite incredible. After having tried, it wasn't the first attempt to go away.
11.
It was the second or third. They ignored the initial stuff, sent the letter through saying, yeah, well, whatever. It is when you start jury service, it is the day, it is where you go. And so we just put a few words, probably no more than 30 words on the back of that paperwork, sent it back, and with less than 24 hours response, done. Don't want to know, off you go, you're excused. So, but then when you look at what's written and you start thinking about it, you think, hang on a minute, so why wouldn't this work in X, Y, Z situation? So, but as I say, I can't release it to you. It's so simple, but yeah, can't just release it at the moment, but it will come to you very soon.
Yeah, well. I'm just tagging Greg. Somebody's put on here error 404 videos not found. So I'm just tagging Greg as well. Then that was an hour ago. Ness has put something about not being able to view videos that are online. So I'll tag Greg, and then I'll look tomorrow as well. Sorry, Ness, and so we'll sort that out ASAP for tomorrow. I'll check videos in a minute to make sure they are there, and then I'll look at that tomorrow.
Yeah, me and David. Yeah, that's G Star's area of expertise.
Yeah.
I can't help you there.
Yeah, thank you, Denise. Thank you, Stephen. Lola, that was the name. Yes, not here now. All right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We're all good then. That was not bad for you. Get your money's worth here, don't you, eh? Questions and answers, and no legal, as you know, advice, but we give you the contents of our grey matter for 60 or 90 minutes weekly. And we love it, don't we? It's an honour and a privilege.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It's Saturday night. Something to look forward to, something to do, isn't it? I know we usually have a bit of a giggle. There's always something to talk about. The room's always good. In here and on the .com, depending on what time we get on the, not on the .com, on the YouTube, I meant. But yeah, it's always good. The numbers have been up a little bit on the YouTube stuff recently, but that's not surprising, seeing as the corona shit. But nice to see, though, still when we've rambled on 2 hours, there's still like 30, 35 people in the room. That's quite heartening. So it's all good.
Let's see what happens when I press videos. And so thank you, Steve. Is there any more commentary? I've got a slow laptop. Is he all good then? We'll see you through the window.
I think, he's saying much love and all the rest of it from him and Denise. What? Yeah. Lola's not there, he says, so.
It's loaded now, Mia. I've just said thank you for the blessings. Thank you to all on the replay, etc. then.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, much love to everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hope to catch you soon, or catch you on the live. Possibly in a minute, possibly not. Who knows?
Oh, page not found. Neo is whoever that was. It Neo. You're right. Then we got a 404 G star not found. 404. Yeah. All right then. That's same for me. Those on the replay videos has dropped off. I will get Greg to look at that. We'll sort that for tomorrow. And thank you, Steve. Thank you, Denise. Much love. Bless up. Trustafarians. Yes, I.
Nice one.
You say bye, Kev, then we'll end it.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Anybody listening in, hope you're all well. Big love to you all. Peace. Keep well. Speak to you soon.
Thank you. Much love. And yeah, we'll speak soon. Tomorrow we'll be interacting again. And we'll be getting that information and fixing the videos for 2 jobs there straight off. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless. Thank you all. Thank you, Kev.
Thank you. No worries, Dave. Cheers, mate.